very happy to see a nice crowd tonight. A couple things before I introduce the poets. Memberships. It's a very elite group that can be members, and you're all invited. And you're all passed the test, and it's important for us. And we also have a donation bowl out at the in the front that as you leave. Tonight we have 5 fabulous poets, and unfortunately we've lost a couple through exposure from COVID. So this gives the 5 that are here even more time to show their talents. We have Elizabeth Bradfield, Rosalind Pace, Margaret Phillips, Keith Althaus, and Marjorie Block. And I'm going to turn, who's going to be first?
Keith.
Oh, you're first in line. All right, so Keith, thank you all.
Well, I have 5 short poems. I like to tell you how many. You can count along. This is called, is it good? Okay. This is called Coming from Truro. The good days are over. One lonely soul at Snail Road fixes their memory. It was short, wasn't it? All right, this one, I wrote this when I was not expecting to do so and wasn't thinking about it and so forth, but sometimes you look down and there it is. This is called For Chris Busa. And Chris was the editor of Provincetown Arts Magazine and Provincetown Arts Press, and he published my first book. And he gave me a whole box and said, if you can't sell them, give them away. Mm-hmm. And so he died not too long ago. For Chris Busa. When I give away a book to someone earnest, broke, I feel I've lit a candle for you, not tall or in a long church, but little, ankle deep in icing, waiting for the birthday boy to suck up all the air he can before bestowing his wish upon the world in exchange for its delicious smoke. Okay, this is another short poem. You were the amazing one everyone came to see. Me, I was a squeaky shadow, a closet full of bones wrapped in an old scent the gods gave off when they were young. You blurted secrets, fresh every day, effervescent, tingling over the remnants of rescinded honorifics, torn epaulets, and prom dresses. Flowers already on the third day pile. Now this one's not, I really couldn't call this a poem, but there it is. I like this, I just wanted to get it out there. This is called Like the Uyghurs. And it's, and the epigraph is from an anecdote in a biography of Arshil Gorky. And Arshil Gorky was sent to this country from Armenia back around the turn of the century. Later than that, it was in the aughts or whatever. And because people were sent to escape the genocide. Okay. Like the Uyghurs, I say, every chance I get to interject their plight into the conversation before it flags. Like the Uyghurs, now raised to new heights, only held previously by the starving Armenians, who really did starve, by the way, at one point tearing posters off walls to eat the wheat paste. And the last poem, A Literary Guide to Eastern Massachusetts. It's a big title. It's a short poem. There's Frank O'Hara's boyhood home in Grafton on a side street, not far from the state police barracks. And the house Jack Kerouac shared with Mamere in the Triangle in Hyannis. Unremarkable and unlikely to provide clues on how to write, but worth a look. That such things occur, sudden beauty, joy, springing out of nowhere, ordinary, lonely places, not so different from your own. Proof of one of the oldest theorems. We are alike and alone. Weeds no one has time for. Thank you. And I think I should introduce Marjorie Block. Am I alphabetically correct?
Okay, isn't this wonderful? I was saying we're live here after 2 years of Zooming our poetry. So it's great to see you all. Thank you for coming. The first poem I'm going to read tonight is Since the Pandemic. I've been thinking about its departure, how it invites the ordinary, simply sitting in a plastic chair on a porch, waiting for water to boil for tea, or the moment a thought comes, clear as the one daffodil waving on the hill, waiting to open into some thing that can be touched and marveled over for its layers. And it's yellow. You saw for the first time, standing in a jar of water on the teacher's desk 3/4 of a century ago, when we sat up straight in our chairs, our fingers curled around fat yellow crayons. Some days you can still smell wax and manila paper, and the concentration it takes to draw a daffodil, to surprise a mother who walks you to school and kisses you at the gate before she goes home to boil water for tea. An adjustment. You'd think by now I'd recognize the vague disturbance. A front sweeping through, leaving behind strands of cirrus, slipping over surfaces, still cold after months of winter gray. I sit by the window watching a pair of gray squirrels race up and down gray oaks. I feel content. I'd say grateful. It's when I look up, catch the flash of red between the branches, that I fear loss. Blue air in early darkness, the quiet of empty streets on a narrow peninsula sticking out into the Atlantic, bending, it seems, suddenly toward the sun. A transitional moment, they say. Equal days, equal nights, time to plant. Imagine rhododendrons giving up their origami folds, a few lady slippers breaking through, moss, a pale yellow, adjusting to the light. Cardinal. Whether or not I listen, insects on a hot summer night clamor outside the screen. Same for the August crickets who fiddle around in the cellar till dawn. Early morning, I look up, watch a trio of deer wander down from the woods to the brick patio, dotted in black oil seed, left behind by the chickadees, singing, "Hey, sweetie." And who can ignore the cardinal, redder than a Rothko's red, squeezed from a tube, sitting on a bare branch in March, laughing at me, watching me run in circles, up and down stairs, walk to the window, look out, walk away, open the refrigerator, try to remember why I was there. He laughed as if he were the husband back to the comedy, now that the tragedy is over and done with. Buried in life, and what the living do, the poet says. Bundle sticks after wild wind roars down the coast. Set rocks and shells back on the picnic table. Check coffee beans for the next morning. Someone has to do it. Sit in the window, the sun warm on your face, on the hyacinth just pushing up, and talk back to the birds. "Hey, sweetie." This is an old poem about Italy. Olive trees. Heavy wooden shutters stand open. Warm air and July sun stream into the room of the convent, my refuge for 3 weeks. At the window, I inhale the unfamiliar countryside of Umbria, the scent of ripe fruit and earth, row after row of olive trees rooted in dry and stony soil. How I welcome the strangeness, to be unknown, unavailable for condolence. On one tier, an old woman wearing a long black robe, like one of the hags of fate, as ancient as this sanctuary. She moves slowly, dragging a thick black hose up the side of a hill and around the demented beauty of each tree. Bent and gnarled as her own body, bent by pain, or prayer. A presence about her touches me in a way I need it to. She turns slowly and looks up at my window. I raise my hand. She lifts the hose, acknowledging loss so new I barely know its name. Maybe I'll read one more. Late August. A squirrel races through leaves and up the trunk of a tree to check on its nest and back down to the ground to bury those acorns that wake me in the night, falling, crashing against the glass skylight, reminding me the days grow short and more beautiful. Light low in the sky, sharpening in the camera's eye, pulling me as if I were a child to see shadows on moss, on leaves, glistening orange and red. I know that time is short. I know because there's an island nearby where plovers and egrets and songbirds are stopping. Hundreds are stopping and resting before they cross oceans and lands seeking eternal summer. Okay. Oh, and next is Elizabeth Bradfield.
Hey, folks, can you hear okay? Is this all right? Yes. Good? All right. Give me a thumbs up if not. It's a real pleasure to be here tonight, and I thought I'd read some poems that I think are going to be in this new, well, we'll see. They're newer poems. And let's see. The first one is a little spicy, but there's nothing that children can't hear because it's all invented swear words. It's called A Mouth Like a Sailor. You hawse dog, you chop block and scupper plug, davit swinger, your binnacle's deviant and your hatch is not tight. Bunk bum, I hate your forecastle, and I bet your gunnel's banged up as a skag on a shoal. You're a hard chine, wrong reeved, a knot's in your bite and your hawser won't haul. Bollard, skivvy waver, your afterbrow and your thruster's got no dig. On dog watch, you're flaked out. Stick a fid in your splice, scuttle yourself. You wouldn't know fancy work if it hit you with a French whip. You're a pintle in the gudgeon. You'll never come about. You Danforth, Deadeye, your belayed and your hove, seacock. You limberhole. You're all belay, kedget and the capstan you came in on. Your bottom's fouled and so's your anchor. Into the laz lubber line. Yaw all you like, you'll never make way with me. I'm not your waypoint, not your following sea. Little invented swearing, right? So I've been thinking a lot about boats and my work on boats and what I love about it. And I work on this series of poems that's either about fixtures on a boat, from cleats to binnacles to halyards, or some navigational terms as a bridge to these other poems that I'm working on. So this poem is called Taking a Fix. Taking a fix is not the same as getting one. No horses, though there may be mares' tails. Fixed for the dog was not her choice, ours. Once I told myself that the key to a happy life was to fix one thing daily, broken lamp, rusty hinge, and I believed it. That small accomplishments done measurably would ease the wallow of bigger failings. To fix in chemistry is to stop something's evolution, body to dirt, germ to disease, light to photographic darkness and fixer. I learned the term take a fix at sea, where each hour we'd use a pencil to mark the chart with where we are. Time, a dot, a circle for location expected to be erased the next time we cover this route. We check the compass, our penciled course, the carefully drawn shores, depths by fathom, buoys and lights to mark the spots proven dangerous. Here, and here, and here. Thus, where we are now in relation, and the way we've arrived and survived. Marlin spike. One of my knives has one, smooth curve fitted to the folded blade, like a stem or claw. I think of it as one of my tusks. Sailors are always checking out each other's knives. This is not a euphemism. Check the clip in a pocket, the leather case slid through a belt. You want at least two, one to thumb flip open and quick cut you free, one to work the rest of the problem with driver heads and pliers. They pull at us. Phone, wallet, knife, the hand checks its stations. Check, check. On a boat, though, the knife is what you really need, plus the spike. I bet yours was pretty, Mac, was scrimshaw. I bet you kept it sharp. Were you a whittler? Would you make a show of setting up, pulling out, opening your beautiful knife? I've got a drawer of knives from over the years, including the red Swiss Army my grandfather gave me as a girl, despite the fact I was a girl. Oh, the snip click as the tweezers or toothpicks slid home. I sawed a room from bamboo with that knife, would go there to read. When the ex-coastie showed me his special knife with a bowhead etched along its stainless, I didn't tell him I had one too. I opened its spike, imagining shoving it into a tight line, making a way to start an eye, or opening a knot to loose it and drift at last from what holds us tight, what binds us to such boring normalcy. Two more. The devil's claw. Have you held the devil's claw? Curled your fingers over its curl and hooked the chain safe? Have you released it? Let it clang to the deck and then let loose the chain, dropped the anchor down and down, leaned over the bow to see if the cable shuddered under strain, see if it held, then cranked the brake, set the dog, and walked away. Have you slept on the hook? Did you drag? I have, and now I wonder what all that harsh grab, dark trust, cold chain did to me. For sure, it saved me, though that's troubled metaphorically. Don't stray from this image world, not for this poem. It's okay. The claw is backup if you haven't housed the anchor right or set the dog. If some rogue wave knocks the brake, it's the devil's claw we must trust. Two curves hooked on a link of chain. A devil's claw cannot be released while it's under strain. The devil's looking up at who's at the helm, seeing if we know how close to danger we've always been. Bell. Lucky when my shift on deck aligned with early light and I could polish the bell, waist and shoulder, head and lip. I'd toggle open the gear locker, grab the tin of Never-Dull stuffed with redolent wadding, rip off a chunk and begin to erase the night's tarnish. That summer, I also came to know the miracle of net desire, of a body's wild shine against another body, like first light glinting on polished brass. Once, softly, I tugged the knotted bell pull, touched clapper to mouth, forbidden. Long waiting sound rang into the whole of my ear. Another secret now between us. Thank you. And I think next we've got Rosalind Pace.
I've been singing all summer the poems in this manuscript, which I've just finished. And in the family story, which this is about, was that we're descended through my father's father, Charles Nelson Pace, from an ancestor who lived in the Jamestown colony and adopted a native boy who was an orphan, and that they lived some distance from the fort. So when I went to Jamestown as a kind of pilgrimage, I saw this brass plaque, and this book grew over many years from my reactions to what I read there. And the book is called Across the Wide, Wide River, and I'm going to read the first poem in the book and the last poem, and then there's just a couple things in the middle. So the first poem is Obad with Clouds. And Obad is a poem in celebration of the morning. A wide, wide river renamed the James, a swampy island called Paspahe, a triangulated fort hastily made, a brass plaque in memory of Chanko, the savior of Jamestown. One part of my brain puffs and smiles, another cringes, hoping no one asks my name. An Indian youth converted to Christianity who resided in the household of Richard Pace. The shadow word is brainwashed. The underword is servant. Warned means betrayed his tribe. Engraved on the plaque as warned Pace of the murderous plot. How what I read covers up so many other words. Chanko is celebrated. Chanko may not be his real name. There is no record of what happened to him. He may have been honored in a ceremony. He may have been given worthless trade beads, shiny glass that seemed miraculous when the dawn sun shone through with rainbow prisms dancing on the charred ground and the wreckage. Procure, to get by special effort. Quote from the first charter of the Council of Virginia. Sir Thomas Gates, governor, is to see to converting the Indians to Christianity by procuring their children for instruction and getting them away from the werewances or priests. To walk into a village, throw some beads on the ground and watch children scramble. Did my ancestor do this or not? Maybe the youth was brought to him, told he was an orphan, appealed to Pace's Christian kindness. Unlikely. The family story, I believed, said, took him in. Well, there it is. What is the meaning of take? I follow my name back to 1614. Richard Pace, carpenter, sailed from Wapping Wall, hired, bound for Virginia. Isabella Smythe, his wife, and George, young son, who must have been about 5, fertile land promised for those who prayed and kept the faith, that God was on their side. Cultivation and good works would give them heaven when they died. Work, work. Richard and Isabella worked 100 acres to each across the wide, wide river. By 1620, Richard had 400 acres, a one-crop plantation, tobacco. Who else worked his land, worked and worked? Or was it mostly fallow? No record. The land, called Paces, Paines, Paines, meaning fields. It is 1945. I am 6. My grandfather is in the pulpit. His righteous thunder fills the sanctuary. I smell the oiled pews, the gardenia perfume of ladies in little hats with netting. Coins clink and shine in the collection plate. The organ makes the floor tremble. I am holding the Bible he gave me. It fits exactly in my small palms. No one gets on their knees because these are Methodists. They sit and stand and sing and sit and pray and promise to be good. Dona nobis pacem, pacem. Much of the world is in ruins. I play croquet on my grandparents' perfect lawn. Uncovering Jamestown, epigraph, and Stanley Kunitz, dig the hole deeper, from my mother's pears. I stopped talking when I was 7. My father told me this. I have no memory why, neither does he. Games we played instead, silences, hole in the heart. A piece of moon came up over the tops of the locust trees in the middle of the night last night. Waning moon, much of its former self gone. Still, I levitate a bit toward it. That's how it always feels whenever I see the moon. A lightness in my body, a kind of rediscovery, a full movement of happiness. Last night I dreamt Jamestown fell piece by piece into the Powhatan River, now named the James, all eroded, nothing left to find, all that toil, luminescent hopes, unnamed bones. I recall my childhood as solitary, silence, maybe a kind of covering up, maybe childish stubbornness, maybe a kind of shame. Many believed Jamestown was lost. Others said, but what if the fort was buried instead? They had to dig and dig to find it. The story revealed in the deep down dirt. Excavating the well of memory, I hear my father's voice saying, splash, or hit one destroyer, as we played battleship in front of the fire with our hand-drawn grids and secret fleets. I learned the ships from newsreels, war having ended not that long ago. I dig into my own past, but artifacts are few. Wool scraps from a pink blanket, a box of marbles, my christening dress, a spoon of silver with the letter P kept in the sugar bowl. I need to talk slowly now, thinking about every word. It takes longer and longer to reach the word I want to say. Words and names, I know. Jamestown, Paces, Paines, 400 acres across the wide, wide river. And yet, what is gone is gone. So when, in the middle of the night, a piece of moon emerges from the tops of my locust trees, the moon, that dependable, reassuring moon, I hold its light in my hands. There is nowhere on earth I'd rather be than right here, where I live, where I watch the full moon rise from the ocean, then watch it rise again from the top branches of my locust trees. Trying to discover family ghosts is like rowing across the ocean with one oar, and the boat is made of ancient wood, more durable, they say, than newer stuff. But the oar gets waterlogged and loopy. The boat goes in circles. The current and a western wind push the solitary seeker in her tiny boat toward a shore that may or may not hold treasure. What is the goal? Or rather, what is the measure? How does one learn to identify treasure? Drawn by a call from the heart to find connection, grabbing any flotsam adrift in the stories, the rower begins to think that whatever connection roars open-mouthed over the waves, one flimsy oar will do no good. The boat stays afloat, carries whatever comes as shattered waves salt sting its body. Little unmoored house of desire, rocking back and forth, holding one human being, listening to the language of the sea. Even a bird feels the weight of its wings, uses that weight to guide it home. And next, Margaret Phillips.
Our theme was summer. And for me, summer is hot and Indiana. And so these are memories. I grew up in Indiana. The name of this first poem of 5 is Supper Poem. We sit at the table. We are there. Clatter of forks over gravy and potatoes. Scrapes on the plates. Robin song through the open window. These tomatoes, we say, sprinkle of salt on warm tomatoes. This corn, we say. Talk of the day. Questions, answers, someone's throat clears, ringing phone, chair rasps the floor, a neighbor knocks. Something here is uncatchable. Every day is the same. I mean different. People there, next day not. Baby sneeze, laughter. Drops of water travel down the sides of our icy glasses, soak into the tablecloth. Splash, rinse, click of stacked china, cabinet doors, knives and forks into the drawer, screen door, squeak, slam, feet on porch stairs, outside air on our faces, dusk climbing into the trees. My grandparents had a farm, and it was not a particularly modern one. And on Monday, she did laundry, in the summertime, well, the wintertime too. She rolled out the washing machine and the gasoline motor and the aluminum wash tubs and did the laundry. Monday, my grandmother's in a chair in the yard beside the wringer washer. We listened to the squelch of the agitating wash tub, the throb of its gasoline engine. The air smells of bleach so clean it clears the lungs. Sunlight bounces off the house, across trumpet vines, and over the grass. Mayflies swoop and dance over the aluminum wash tubs. In my grandmother's apron lap, a crochet thread bobs and dips. Her fingers loop the small lightning of her crochet hook in and out of a dresser scarf. She points across the road to a bird in the cattails. He's black, with red on his wings. He sings, resettles, flies to an oak's low limb. Through the soft slap slosh of the motor, I hear him. I see my grandmother's hands, the light on the house, the orchard to our south, over yonder, as she says. What's that hum? Have I done something? Summer before fourth grade is the setting, 1957, and the title of the poem is Summer, I'm 11, at Aunt Mary's cabin at Little Fish Lake, Michigan. Up here on the cliff looking down on the lake, cabins stick their faces out to the rim. If our cabin is like me, it's afraid, but excited, afraid to look down, far down to the lake. Green and dark blue in the middle. It's so quiet here, I can almost hear it breathing. Behind the 51 steps down to the lake, dusty weeds and blue flowers poke out from the clay. They make me think of Aunt Mary's gray hair, all wavy on her head, as if it likes to be there. Her hands like her book and turn the pages so fast. Her eyes push that book into her head like I ate scrambled eggs last night, so hungry. Aunt Mary asks me how my day was, but she isn't listening to my answer. I'm glad, because I don't want to talk. I want to think about lying on the rowboat seat, listening to the kite's squawky questions as it soars and then tips up into the sun. And I want to think about the treetops, light green on the rim and cool green down around the lake, where little waves kiss the rowboats. Now, now, now. Those women. It's hard to believe that Florence, who grew up in a Chicago orphanage, and Claire, whose sweetheart was killed in the Great War, and Dorothy, who had a baby before she had the vote, and Catherine, who brought her little brother up because her mother couldn't. Those women, born at the turn of the 20th century, and so kind to me. It's hard to believe those women are gone. It's hard to believe that these women who live day by day in a small world in the Midwest with few Negroes or Jews or even Catholics or even Democrats. Though it's women who feared and fed hobos, who worked on farms or in small town apron factories or taught in schools, that those women walked as we do in the wind that blows as it does in winter and spring and summer and fall. It's hard to believe they are gone. It's hard to believe in this strange, warm winter day when they learned their country had been bombed at Pearl Harbor. Where's that? And that they sent their sons and brothers and students off to Europe and the Philippines to fight for a free world. That they lived at home on rationed butter and meat and rationed gasoline. That the day came when they grieved over Paul's heart attack and lost the harvest on the farm, or had to close Honey's aprons because there was no one to care for Dorothy's mother-in-law. And Catherine got word her son was shot as his parachute floated down over the foot of Italy. That farmers who didn't even speak English, who lived in an enemy country, helped him come home on crutches, but come home. They thought about the blood and bodies of their family when they went to church on Sunday for communion. And on a hot summer afternoon, they sat on a porch, fanned themselves with a pasteboard fan from Weber's funeral home, and then got up and made a good supper. And who were so kind to me as a child, who fed me sour cream twists and gave me a napkin, whose houses smelled of less toil than lavender soap, who had photos of old-time people on their desks. Those women whom I thought were so old, their stories didn't really happen. It's hard for me to believe they are gone, that their times have ended, and their kindness to me has passed. This is the last one. The name of it is Sestina of That Summer. I'm not sure what summer. The car drove to the lake where the water waded, easing to the shore in ripples. Later, the dark sky was lit by the moon, and the child was carried to bed by her father. The only sound was a little wind and the father's whistle, but the daughter heard and saw nothing through her closed eyes. The next morning, she saw with new eyes. She looked out the window to see the lake, where the green water under early sun showed hardly a ripple. High in the blue sky hung a white slice of moon. The daughter didn't see her father. Oh, he was bringing groceries from the car. He whistled. This wasn't the only sound. She heard the low whistles of the mourning dove and searched for him with her eyes while hurrying through cereal and juice before the lake. Her happiness bunched around her heart and radiated in ripples with the breeze that seemed to come from the pale day moon over the water to her and her father. It was such peace to be with their father, his happy walk, ring of coins in his pocket, this tuneful whistle. She watched him reading and let him fill her eyes. The water lapped the shore and moved gently back over the lake. The miracle of summer, the sweet trees, the ripples of air caressing them, the magic of presence like the moon. She pursed her lips and tried to pipe the moon. Her little puffs of air were nothing like her father's. It pulled her jaw and strained her neck to whistle. They watched each other's mouth and eyes. Clouds blew toward the lake, and little waves replaced the ripples. He rose from the table and placed his hands on her hair in ripples. He said he loved her high as the moon. He said he was happy to be born her father. He said, "Listen, I can hear the Chicago train's far whistle. You know it's there, but with your heart, not eyes." He asked her if she wanted to row on the lake. Years later, she remembered his eyes, the kindness of her father. In fact, she had learned to whistle at the lake. When loneliness comes in ripples, she rounds her mouth and thinks of that day's moon.
song for it because it was all so wonderful. Thank you all. It was beautiful. I'm always amazed by poets in terms of just the way they can put words together. I can barely talk when I'm up here. So thank you so much. And everyone have a nice evening. And thank you for coming.